Good afternoon. I'm Lou Antoine with Job Service Kalispell. Thank you for joining us for the Blueprint for Business Success October seminar. Please take a moment to help us identify the businesses benefiting from today's seminar. Enter your name, title, business you represent, and your city in the chat box. Attendees are muted, but we encourage you to use the chat box for asking questions, which will be answered at the end of the presentation as time allows. As usual, we ask that your questions and comments are polite and respectful to all attendees and the presenter. There is a 2-minute anonymous survey that we would appreciate you completing. It will pop up when you click on Leave at the end of our seminar. Your feedback helps us improve the program and offer future topics and content that is useful to Montana businesses. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from Dylan Hooper and Anita Emerson as they share information on the topic Online Reputation Management. Dylan Hooper is a digital marketing strategist from Hagadone Media Group. He has helped small and large companies alike boost their online presence and visibility to attain new customers and leads. Anita Emerson is a digital marketing specialist for Hagadone Media Group, Montana. She helps small, medium, and large businesses strategize and implement successful marketing campaigns. Anita is also Google Ads certified. She has a master's in career and developmental counseling, postgraduate diploma in human resource management, and a bachelor's in psychology. Today's seminar focuses on learning different ways that listings, customer reviews, and owner responses can bolster your online presence and customer trust. By building customer trust, you will set a foundation for success within your business. Please help us welcome Dylan Hooper and Anita Emerson.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, everybody. And I'm Anita. Thank you for choosing to spend your lunch hour with us. Really quickly, before I hand it off to Dylan, just want to talk about online reputation management as an important tool. I know, there's the saying that says, character is who you are and reputation is who other people think you are. So as we go through today's presentation, be thinking about those little things that you can do to make sure that your online presence is where it should be. And I also want to offer everybody that is attending today's presentation a free online presence audit. So be sure to stick around and let's have some fun. Go ahead, Dylan.
Awesome. Thanks, Anita. So really quick, just to start this off, we're going to be kind of covering today, for those of you who don't know all of the specifics that we're going to dive into here, we're going to cover online reputation management, kind of what it is, how it impacts your business, and then at the end, we're going to kind of go over some steps that you can take to make the most out of your online reputation and ultimately turn it into leads and new customers. So diving right in here, what is online reputation management? Imagine that you hear about a business or a product from a friend, it piques your interest. Well, it's more likely that while you trust the opinion of your friend, not all solutions fit two people the exact same, right? So you're gonna want, most customers, they hear about something and then they dive in and do their own research a little bit, read some reviews, kind of learn about the company before they make that purchasing decision. And realistically, when they're doing that research, they're gonna run into places like Google My Business, Yelp, what they're comfortable with and where they trust reviews. So online reputation management is gonna be highly involved with making sure that your business is in those locations and that you're managing kind of the presence that you have there in very specific ways. So you're going to want to make sure that part of online reputation management is making sure that you have a accurate brand across the internet. You're not going to find, and what I mean by that is you're not going to find different information on a business's Facebook listing versus their Google listing versus their Yelp listing, because if customers are going to those different areas, You want to make sure that your business hours are the same, any holiday changes, things like that, phone numbers, any contact information, making sure that those are accurate across the way. And we'll kind of dive into some of the specifics of that later in the benefits. And then as far as managing and updating various business changes, nothing's completely static. Maybe there's holiday hours that change. So part of online reputation management is really getting in there and doing the work to make sure that you're making consistent changes when those are occurring, so that you are in front of your customers with the right updated information there. And then diving into kind of online reputation management, a big portion of that is managing customer reviews, both positive and negative. And I stress that very heavily. While it's great to respond to feedback that's positive, it's almost as important, if not more important, to respond to negative reviews. Positive reviews will help your online reputation by obviously providing, good insight from customers that you've built a relationship with, but also with the negative reviews can say just as much to how you respond to challenges with customers, and can really help solidify that credibility and trust. So that's a super important part of online reputation management. And then preventing competitor negative influences. Part of that is going to be, no one keeps everybody happy. That's just kind of the way things go. You can't make everyone happy, but you definitely can kind of manage any of those malicious efforts that, maybe a super upset customer or a competitor might be trying to impose upon your business listings, whether it's through making wrong suggestions on Google to kind of skew the accuracy of your information on that listing, or a customer doing the same thing. You can actually, through online reputation management and paying very close attention to those, you'll see any suggested changes and can address them accordingly, so that you don't have wrong information that is put there by a competitor or upset customer. What online reputation management isn't, while it is an integral part of your local marketing to make sure that you're getting that right information, you're building that customer trust and everything, it's a tool in the belt. It isn't the belt. So it's not a local marketing replacement, but it is an integral part in every single business's local marketing presence. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into our first poll question. So thinking about your business and online reputation management, when was the last time that you checked your business listing accuracy? Was it within the last 7 days, the last month? Have you checked it this year? Or are you not quite sure? Maybe it's been more than a year since you checked your business listings to make sure that all the information's accurate across the board.
I'm really curious about this one, Dylan, because I know you're going to dive into a little more about listings and things, and I don't want to give it away, but let's see what our answers come back with.
All right, so a lot of you, most of you said this year, 46% of you, with only 23% in the last month and 8% in the last 7 days, and 23% of you, it's been possibly more than a year since you've looked at listings. Maybe you just haven't quite set some of them up yet, or just don't have the time to kind of dive in. And I'll jump into kind of why some of that's important. And just kind of a overview here. Obviously, we're all kind of familiar with Google My Business listings. That's like the biggest one that people see whenever you search in Google search. A lot of us are familiar with Yelp. These are kind of some of the biggest listing platforms. You've got Facebook, you've got Amazon Alexa for anyone that's doing some voice search at home. That one plays a big role. You've got Big Maps, we've got Foursquare, we've got Nextdoor. But one thing I really wanted to highlight here is there's much more than just the 7 that I'm showing here on this slide. There's, an upwards of, 60 plus hundreds of different platforms out there that your customers could be utilizing to get information, to do their research on your company before buying a product or service. And, having all of those kind of set up can really benefit the growth of your customer lead funnel. And why do online listings matter? There's a huge portion of online presence is for customer research purposes. So there's a lot of different paths that a customer could take before they decide to do business with you, right? So say you're a restaurant in Whitefish and someone hears about you from a friend maybe first, and then they look up some reviews before they decide to dine there, and then they might make a purchase. Or if you're a plumber in Kalispell, they know they need the service first because a pipe bursts or something, so they kind of understand that they need a solution to that problem. Then they're going to research different companies in the area, which they might they're going to search maybe something like plumbers in Kalispell. They're going to look at all those different listings that show up. They're going to read the reviews, and they're going to make a decision based off of those reviews, and then they'll call into the business. So that's, you need to show up with your listing. Then they're going to make a decision based off the information that they find there, which we'll kind of dive into. And that ties into the, responding to positive and negative reviews. And then, making sure that your phone number is accurate on there for them to actually be able to make the call. So there's like 3 steps in that. The online listings are playing a part in all 3 of those, 5 steps there. And then, another path, maybe someone's thinking about doing Christmas shopping here and they see a Facebook ad, but then, Facebook ads aren't always super reliable. So again, the customer is going to jump in and kind of do some more research before they decide to make that purchase, especially if it's an online purchase. Or they might, do the research before going in and visiting the store. And you might be thinking to yourself with these, yeah, that's kind of what you expect as far as the path that the customer goes to making the final decision. And some of you might be thinking, I put these in here to show the importance of online reputation, and you're going to be right, but studies have shown that customers do in fact research and read reviews before buying 93% of the time. So there's only 7% of people that aren't going to do the research ahead of time before making the purchase in some capacity. So, and then the other thing is, lead funnels with online listings. So, and this just kind of dives into the more listings you have out there, the more opportunities you have to get in front of your customer. Not everyone uses Yelp. Not everyone focuses strictly on Google My Business, because, people have their different tendencies. So just making sure that you have all of those online listings for your reputation out there, it really does a lot to expand your lead funnel and opportunities. And then website backlinks. This one kind of ties into your local search performance. So online listings with website backlinks that you get from that, most all of the listing platforms have some sort of capacity to link to your website, and that's going to boost your local search performance, just kind of as like a byproduct that's super helpful. And then search engine knowledge graph also ties into your local search performance through your online listings. And then what we kind of consider there, a lot of those listings are going to affect your search performance through what's called essentially NAP, which stands for name, address, and phone number. So by having all these listings accurate, and search engines use them kind of as like a checking, like checks and balances. They look through all these listings, they find that information, they determine it's accurate, and then they basically see your business as more credible by having all of these set up, and will benefit you through that.
Dylan, I was going to say, to go back to the slide, I love
Yep.
that slide because we're talking about why do online listings matter? And we've started from the human process, which is the consumer research process. And then we're also going into on the technical side, why that's important. You know, you're talking about lead funnels and website backlinks, you know, even getting referrals or backlinks from your local chamber and making sure, I mentioned this the other day, that your information on pages like that is also completely accurate. Super important in how all of this listing accuracy and information plays into the technical side of reputation management. So nice job.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of benefits to it too. And one thing that is nice, like you mentioned, Anita, with those local listings, those are going to be extremely relevant for a lot of those near me searches or something in Kalispell, because most of those are going to be kind of organized by location, and that's more relevant in the eyes of search engines. So it's just it's a nice byproduct to have, along with building that credibility and trust with your customers. So there's a lot of benefits that online listings have to business success. So kind of diving into, like we talked about just now, on who are you reaching. You're reaching local customers, like I had kind of just talked about. A lot of these are very hyper local specific, in terms of how they categorize and how people reach them. So a lot of the people that are finding you are almost guaranteed to be in the area that you can turn into foot traffic. You know, no matter where you are in the Flathead Valley, it's very specific, and that can turn into foot traffic and or online sales, depending on what it is you're offering there. But the fact remains, it is very hyper local targeting.
Real quick, to interject here, and you know, just for everybody to keep in mind, if you are a small business, you have maybe just the one location, then you are thinking about that one listing and making sure all of that, the information on that one listing is complete. But if you're a larger organization, you have satellite locations. Dylan, can you talk about, you know, making sure that all of those, and you know, you're talking about hyper local. So if this larger organization has locations in different areas, and it could be like Fish, Kalispell, Columbia Falls, you know, do they have to finish their listings or complete their listings for all of those locations, or how does it?
Yeah, so when it comes to having satellite locations, you are going to want to have kind of those listings for each one of those, so that you're targeting all those local areas. And obviously, you know, you might have a different phone number for a business in, you know, Polson than, you know, one that you have in Whitefish. So those are going to need different listings because they have different information, and you need to make sure that that's accurate for the customers. But say, you know, you're kind of on the other side of the spectrum, maybe you do just have one location, but you have a huge service area. A lot of these listing platforms have information like that that you need to fill out. You know, maybe you drive within a 50-mile radius, so that's something you would want to set up so that you're making sure that you're targeting that area that you service.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
And then we kind of, who else are you reaching? You're reaching people in the consideration and kind of decision phase of the buyer's journey. So it's not necessarily targeting people that you would target with like display ads or anything. Those would be more in, say, like the awareness portion. These are people that are ready to make the decision, they're wrapping up their research, and then they're ready to buy. So you're reaching people that are more likely to turn into leads kind of within a very short time frame. They've done most of the work up to this point. They've determined the problem that they need a solution to, and they're kind of ready to go. They're just wrapping up their research and, you know, making that contact through your business listing and online reputation. So this is all very relevant traffic that is very likely to turn into leads and sales. And part of what we wanted to talk about today too is, you know, Flathead's a growing area. And the way that new customers go through their buying journey is going to be highly digital based, and it's going to rely heavily on the online research portion from the consumers themselves before making a purchase. So having all of this prepped ahead of time is going to make sure that your business is evolving with the area, and that you're making that you have that reputation set up as the area continues to evolve and grow. So some of the benefits of online reputation management, we talked a little bit about local SEO value through, you know, the website backlinks that you're going to be getting, having that NAP the same across all of your business listings, so that you've got that name, address, phone number to kind of verify with search engines. So that's going to help your local SEO. We've got business information accuracy. Nothing is worse than doing all of the research, deciding that you want to go with a company, and then you call the phone number and it's a deadline, or you go visit the store and it turns out they just moved, or, you know, you go there but their business hours have changed because of staffing or something, and then, you know, you've put the effort, you wanted to make that connection, and then it was just dead. And a lot of people will, you know, if it doesn't work out that way, they're gonna essentially go find someone else. So business information accuracy through online reputation management is a huge benefit to making sure that you maintain those relationships with potential customers and don't miss out on any opportunities. Another thing with online reputation management is it can, as you're managing your online reputation, you can find and address any duplicates, any duplicate listings. Obviously, you don't want one listing on Yelp that you manage continuously, but then all of a sudden you find one that hasn't been touched in 3 years. If customers are going there, then that's going to prove to be an issue. And then that kind of ties into with finding unclaimed listings. You know, maybe there's one that was set up 4 or 5 years ago by someone who no longer works at the company, and it just kind of lives out there. That's kind of in the same scenario. And then obviously we talked about kind of new lead channels. I don't know how many of you today here are set up in all of these different listings, but by setting up those new listings, you're going to have those new lead channels more than just a Facebook listing, a Google listing, and so on and so forth. And then kind of we talked about the quality of the leads that you're going to be getting. That's a huge benefit by targeting those people that are ready to make that purchase. It's just gets you up and running and getting those leads in the door, which ultimately is the end goal for everyone. Like, we all want to make money, right? Well, the quality of these leads and business is, you know, ready to make that purchase very shortly here. And then better voice search performance, that kind of ties into the NAP that we talked about as well, the name, address, and phone number. So whenever someone's at home and they search on their Google Home or their Alexa, their Amazon Alexa, that NAP information is essentially what the voice search ends up responding. So if someone's like, hey Alexa, what, I'm sorry if I just turned anyone's on, but with the, if anyone says, you know, what time does this restaurant open, that's going to pull from the listing information. And then, you know, obviously when talking on the reviews side of things, when you're responding to reviews, both positive and negative, that's increasing customer trust because they know that you're engaged with your customers to make, you know, if there's something goes wrong, you're going to respond, you're going to try and make that right in some capacity. But also, you know, if something goes right, people love the appreciation to be like, oh, thank you for, I'm glad you liked this product or service. Can't wait to do business with you again. It just makes people feel good. So it increases that trust and relationship with your customers. So there's a lot of benefits to online reputation management. So with that being said, you know, let's go ahead and dive into poll question number 2. Does your business respond to both positive and negative reviews?
This is
So
a good question.
So absolutely not as much as I should. I know there's only so many hours in the day, but this is definitely an important one to building that relationship with your customers, and how you handle, and we'll jump into it a little bit here in the next slide after we get these answers in here, but how you handle negative reviews can have a huge impact, but also positive reviews. So it looks like 88% of you absolutely respond to negative as well as positive reviews. That is fantastic. And then 13% of you, not quite as much as you should. Great response. None of you don't have time to respond to reviews, so that is perfect. That's just what we like to see. Okay, so diving in here, let's talk a little bit about responding to negative reviews. So why should you respond to negative reviews? It seems kind of obvious. Obviously, when it comes to online reputation management, we want to make sure that we have our best foot forward with our customers and potential customers while they're in that research phase. We don't want anyone to stumble upon the listing and kind of we don't want to leave them questioning whether or not it's the right thing to do business with you, right? We want them to feel secure. We want them to, you know, be proud that they're going to be doing business with you and like trust that that's the right decision for them. So responding to negative reviews helps retain customers. So most of the reviews that you are getting are obviously people that have jumped in there and, you know, made that decision to actually make a purchase and or of a product and or service. So if someone's not happy, this gives you a chance, responding to negative reviews gives you a chance to kind of make that right. And odds are, if you make that right, they're going to do repeat business with you because you took the time and effort to right that wrong. And studies show that 53% of customers expect businesses to respond to negative reviews within a week. With that being said, if you're not fully, like if you're kind of fall within that section of the maybe you don't respond to reviews as much as you should, and we've got some kind of negative reviews in the backlog that you haven't had a chance, I would say better late than never, because those unresponded to reviews, even at this point, if it's a little bit late to do that customer retaining, negative reviews are what new potential customers are kind of going to be looking for and how you respond to that. And that kind of ties into, you're going to build credibility with new customers from responding to these negative reviews. And 45% of customers say they're more likely to visit a business that responds to negative reviews. So if you're not responding to negative reviews, you could potentially be missing out on 45% of your customer base, because 93% of them are doing their research beforehand. So, and then 45% of those, are more likely to visit you based off that. So there's a lot of potential to respond to negative reviews there.
I love this. This is one of my favorite topics, and I know it's one of our audience's favorite topics, because a review can sort of make or break your reputation as a business. And when it comes down to it, reviews is about feelings. It's about the feelings of people, and it's about how they feel about you as a business, right? So when there's a lot of great reviews about your business online, people think, oh great, I'm gonna have a great experience if I do business with this particular business. Whereas if there are a lot of negative reviews, you're kind of gonna move on to maybe the next listing on wherever as a consumer you are doing your research. And then there's this whole idea of negative reviews that are left, either because somebody wasn't satisfied. Again, like I said, it's all about feelings, right? Or maybe somebody left a bad review. Maybe they're a competitor. We don't know. But how you respond to review really, really can change how a potential customer thinks about your brand, because they will obviously, in the end, be able to determine, hey, looks like this other customer was unhappy with their service, but I really like the way this business handled the issue or the problem. It looks like they responded right away and they made it right. So I still am going to go ahead and do business with this particular business. So reviews have a lot of power. They are definitely that human side of the business and the customer, to be able to connect the two. As an example, this is something that recently happened. So just a little bit for those of you who jumped on later. I work for Hagadone Media Group, Montana, and under the Hagadone umbrella, we also have a lot of local newspapers, which includes the Daily Interlake, Concord Horse News, the Whitefish Pilot, the Western News, Lake County Leader, and Valley Press Mineral Independent. It's a long list, but most recently, the Daily Interlake is hiring for carriers. So if you know anybody, get in touch with me, because we want to get local news out there to our community. Somebody had commented on one of our ads saying nobody reads the newspaper. Now that's a bold claim to make. So the way we responded to that was just to give this person some facts about newspaper readers and how much news is actually consumed in our local community. And when we did that in a very respectful and calm and just factual way, we try to go back to see if the person had responded. And to us, it looked like the person had removed their comment. So this is an example of, if you are not able to manually remove a negative review or a comment, how to mitigate that particular negative review or comment. So yeah, love this topic. Definitely, I was glad to see in the polls that everybody is responding to positive and negative comments, and I hope that we're doing it in a constructive way. Anyway, just wanted to share that, Dylan.
Absolutely. So like you had said, it really comes down to how you respond to negative reviews in terms of making the impact. And actually, I like what you said there, Anita, in terms of, they ended up removing the negative comment. And there are a lot of scenarios in which you can't necessarily get a comment or review removed, but it really comes down to how you respond to it, to look, if you can't retain that customer to build credibility with the new customers, it all comes down to the response. So kind of some tips in terms of responding to negative reviews: make sure to stay calm and composed. You know, no one wants to go on and see a review from a business that's like all caps, bold, super angry, like that's a little unnerving. So just calm, composed, professional, and people respond to that very well. And then commitment to service. Obviously, you want to stand behind whatever it is you're offering, whether it's a product or service, and you know, be committed in that, because if people see that you're committed to what you're offering, then they're going to trust what you're offering a little bit more. And that might be, you know, sometimes you can't make everyone happy, and you know, someone's just mad for the sake of being mad. There's always those situations where you can't really do a whole lot about that. But you know, stand behind your you're committed to what you're offering. And then that kind of ties into customer experience management. If you are able to do something to kind of mitigate that situation or do right by that customer, without, you know, taking away from your commitment to what you're offering, then do so. But those two are kind of a give and take scenario, in terms of responding. And then responsibility, like taking responsibility for kind of the experience that someone had, goes a long way with new customers that are doing their research. I always kind of talk about, there's a difference between excuses and reasons, right? Like an excuse is basically, this happened, it's not my fault, there's nothing we can do about it. Whereas a reason would be more along the lines of recognizing that there's an issue and doing something to solve it. And I always tie kind of reasons with taking responsibility of what happened and making an effort to solve the problem. And that's kind of a big thing that people like to see, is that your business is taking responsibility for something, offering a solution, whether or not that negative review, what they do from there doesn't really matter. You've put your best foot forward, and other people see that and they respect that and are more likely to do business with you because of it. And that kind of ties into next steps too, like having a solution there. You know, whether it's kind of taking it offline, if you don't necessarily want to see like a huge thread of arguing between a business and the customer back and forth, which is why you see so many reviews that are like, hey, we understand that you didn't have a good experience. We're, you know, we're sorry about that. Here's what we can do for you. Get in touch with us through our email or something that's, you know, no longer in that thread. And that'll kind of mitigate and take that elsewhere. So people will see that you responded, you made an effort, but then anything kind of beyond that is in a different realm. But then, you know, you're headed in the right direction. You offered a solution, and then people kind of see that you took care of all these, and that kind of that builds their trust in doing business with you, so they know, if I do have a negative experience and it's not what I want, at least this business is willing to kind of offer some solutions and move from there.
I love that you said that, you know, to put it another way, they feel safe interacting with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So diving into poll question number 3 here, just to kind of figure this out. Do you have a Bing's Places listing set up for your business? And I'll explain why this question is the way that it is here in a second after we get the responses. And then we'll kind of dive into, I believe, some actionable steps is the next portion here, so that you guys can go out there and, you know, make the biggest impact with the online reputation that you have. So it looks like here, 13% of you guys said yes, 75% do not have a Bing's Places listing set up, and 13% of you don't know whether you do or not. So kind of some example, or like some reason why I'm asking that is jumping in to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the things that you can do, I figured it would probably result in some similar fashion to what we had the results there. Because normally there are just, the few that businesses tackle, because everyone knows about them, and then the few that kind of get thrown by the wayside that really could have a lot of potential. So actionable goals in terms of making an impact, using your online reputation management for your business's success. Here are kind of some of the steps that you can kind of go out there and make the most of it. So setting up local listings accurately. It's important that they're accurate, as we kind of talked about. They need to match across the board. So setting up the local listings beyond just your Google My Business, your Facebook, your Yelp, Bing Places is going to be, if anyone searches on Bing, which I believe Bing's roughly 15% of search market share. So, and actually like Yahoo and a lot of those pull from Bing. So it's probably a little bit bigger than that in terms of your Bing Places. So I would encourage all of you that answered not sure or no to go set one of those up, and also kind of just peek at some of the other local listing options that you might not have set up, and get those set up accurately. While you're doing that, make sure you fill out everything on that listings. Like if there's an option for photos, make sure you get some photos in there. If there's, business, obviously you want to get your business hours, anything that particular listing offers, you should fill out in that listing, because that's going to kind of focus, like that's going to give more information that can kind of be cross-checked between search engines across the board. And then also, they don't just offer those, forms for nothing, like those form fields for nothing. They all use those in some capacity when they're kind of organizing their stuff. So I highly recommend that while you're setting up your listings, you make sure that everything is filled out. If there's a section for products, if there's a section for really just about anything, make sure you're touching on that. And then respond to customer reviews, both positive and negative. A lot of you guys are already tackling that. And then monitor and suppress duplicate listings. If there are any listings, you don't want a competitor going out there and setting up another listing that matches yours with wrong information. You don't want an old one that's out there existing to be negatively impacting the benefits that you can be taking. And then bonus, take advantage of extra features. If you're, if you're on a restaurant, make sure that you've got the extra menu links. If you're on a hotel, reservation links. If you're some sort of, if you offer a product that someone can buy online, you can actually put those in like your Google My Business and make sure that you have all the categories set up properly. Like there's a lot of extra features that are kind of business specific. And if you have more questions about that in the future, you can get in touch with us and we can go specifically based off your business. But when it comes down to it, there are different features based off your industry, and you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of those. All right.
Well, great presentation, Dylan and Anita. Let's go ahead and open the discussion to any questions that we have. And we have a few today. We'll start out with number one. How do I remove a bad review?
All right. So kind of diving into removing negative reviews. It is going to be a little bit dependent on what listing platform that negative review is on. When it comes to removing that negative review, it's kind of based off their policy. A lot of the policies, they'll kind of double check whether or not that's a real review. But obviously, as we kind of know, if it's online, it's treated as real by any customers. We just need to determine whether or not it's actually real. And a lot of times in those scenarios, you essentially send in a a request to that listing support, and they'll check it out and let you know what they can do with it. Other than that, it's really taking it into your hands and making sure that you respond to it, so that if it does remain, people are seeing that you have a proper response to it, and then it's not gonna really feel as bad when people are doing their research, and that can actually help you rather than hurt you in those terms, depending on how you respond. But to answer the question, you can't always, but it's best to contact support.
Thank you. That's fantastic information, Dylan. The next question we have is, which directories should I have my information listed on?
All of them. So the more directories that you can have your information listed on, the better, benefit that you're going to have to your local search, the more name, address, phone numbers, and like the bigger lead funnel. So any that you can find that your business fits in. There are some directories that are like industry specific and things like that, so not all of them will apply to your business, but any that do apply, you should set up a listing on. And it's most of them are pretty quick. It's like a 3 to 5 minute process, maybe a little bit more if you need to go get some pictures or something. But any that are relevant to your business, I would say get set up with.
Fantastic. We have another question here. If I need to use different phone numbers to track my marketing campaigns, does that affect my listing performance?
Yeah, so to kind of dive into this, for any of you who maybe don't use tracking, like different phone numbers for tracking purposes, essentially what some people will do is, set up a separate phone number that kind of routes to their normal phone number, so that they can track different phone calls from, like, if it came from Yelp or if it came from Facebook. And that can negatively impact, because you don't have the accuracy between the different business listings. That can negatively impact how well your listings are performing and how good your online reputation management is. While it's not going to be impacting the customer experience, they're getting to the right line, assuming that there's not an issue somewhere between the routing portion of it, because there can be those, and you might be missing some calls if that's not set up properly. Besides it still being intact, because that information is somewhat all over the place in terms of accuracy, that can negatively impact your listing performance. So I wouldn't recommend doing different phone numbers just for tracking purposes on there.
All right. Thank you again, Dylan. Once again, to all of our listeners, if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them up in chat. But right now we have another one that it might seem like an obvious answer, but how important is my online reputation to my business in reality?
I would, like, if I had to do it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say that your online reputation for your business is absolutely a 9 or a 10. Mostly just because research is such a huge part of the customer journey, and your online listings apply to almost all of that. While someone might do research on different solutions, the end step is comparing customers. So if you don't have a good online reputation, the likelihood of them going with a competitor over you is going to be high, especially if that competitor is putting a lot of effort towards their online reputation. If you're kind of like a very niche situation and you're the only one within that area, maybe it would fall a little bit lower. But if you have any sort of competition, which most businesses will, it's absolutely a 9 to a 10.
Well, thank you so much again, Dylan. We're going to wrap up today, but before we do, we'd like Anita to go ahead and put up her slide and talk a little bit more about what you are offering for businesses.
Yeah, so thanks for sticking around, guys. Dylan, great job on delivering all of this information. And I love that last question about, online reputation and, how important it is. Is it in the broader picture? And so true. We live in such a hybrid world that you just cannot afford to ignore it anymore. And, it's never a bad idea to start early. As our environment, as our area changes. So get in touch, whether it's just for a cup of coffee or as Lou mentioned, and I mentioned in the beginning of the seminar, we are offering a free online presence audit for all of you that have attended this seminar. Make sure to get in touch with me. My contact information is right there, and would love to chat with you and learn about your business and hear where you are in your online marketing journey, and see if we can help you. That's it, Lou.
A huge thank you to Dylan and Anita for gifting their time today and sharing their expertise in social media. Following a few announcements, we will leave up contact information in case you have any further questions for Anita or Dylan, or you would like to request a copy of their slide presentation. Be sure to attend next month's Blueprint seminar titled Video Marketing for Small Businesses. And once again, before you go, please help us identify the businesses benefiting from today's seminar. Enter your name, title, business you represent, and your city in the chat box. Thank you again in advance for completing the survey when you leave today. Your feedback helps us improve this program and provide meaningful topics and content. Once again, thank you for attending.